On Monday morning, after an expected free weekend, Dr. Emilia Orlova, veterinarian at the Nadezhda Animal Shelter, returned to work. Barely crossing the threshold of her office, she came face to face with one of the most difficult aspects of her profession, making decisions about euthanasia. Sitting at her desk, Emilia sighed deeply with her heart gripped by sadness. The shelter's strict regulations left no room for doubt. Incurable animals or those suffering without possibility of recovery had to be put to sleep to avoid further pain and prevent the spread of infections among the others. Through years of service at the shelter, Emilia had made euthanasia cases extremely rare. She always fought alongside her colleagues for the life of every creature. For her, every pet deserved a chance, regardless of the severity of their condition. They did the impossible to cure them and avoid resorting to extreme measures. But sometimes illness was stronger, and then euthanasia became the only humane option. That day, Emilia felt deep frustration from the inability to keep her medical promise to protect the most defenseless. It hurt her soul to have to end the lives of two adorable puppies whose illness was incurable and caused them to suffer constantly. Euthanasia seemed to be the only way to free them from torment. However, Emilia could not imagine that on this day, one of those puppies that was destined for death would end up touching her heart in a way that would change everything. She approached the shelf, took the list of animals destined for euthanasia, and glanced over the names. Her heart tightened when she read the names of two puppies, Semyon and Max. The mere thought of putting them to sleep filled her with overwhelming compassion. She closed her eyes and couldn't help but remember the story of these little ones. Semyon and Max were found wandering the crowded streets of the city of Amin. They were two helpless creatures, lost in a huge and terrifying world. From the first day at the shelter, they became inseparable, always cuddling against each other, seeking warmth and comfort. Their bond moved the entire staff, and despite their serious health condition, they seemed to find strength in each other. Unfortunately, their health quickly deteriorated. No treatment proved effective, even with the best efforts of Emilia and the other veterinarians. Every attempt seemed useless, and the situation became hopeless. Looking at the list again, Emilia felt a lump in her throat. She knew that considering the shelter's conditions and the puppies' fragility, their chances of survival were minimal. But accepting that their lives would end so quickly was almost unbearable. She remembered how they were rescued by Buddhist nuns who, seeing them suffering in the streets, fighting for food and struggling with bad weather, decided to take them to the shelter. It hurt them to see how these two weak creatures risked their lives among cars. This gesture of kindness deeply moved everyone, and since then Semyon never separated from Max, his little companion. Despite everything they had been through, they were still together, united even in the face of adversity. Their connection touched those who knew them, and their story spread throughout the shelter, although few knew that something more than friendship connected them. With a heavy heart, Emilia stood up. She knew what she had to do, however painful it was. She went to the nursery where Semyon and Max were, but nothing prepared her for what she saw. Approaching the cage, she found them huddled together. What destroyed her was the sight of their closed eyes, as if they knew what was about to happen. There was something special in that silence, peaceful acceptance of their fate, as if they sensed the end. Emilia felt that the puppies had accepted their fate with a calm that overwhelmed her. Unable to hold back tears, she fell to her knees beside them, stroking their soft fur. She knew she had to prepare them to be taken to the euthanasia room, but at that moment something in her changed. However, at that very moment Emilia felt something strange. It was a feeling difficult to describe, but she was certain there was something special about these two puppies. She had cared for many animals during her career as a veterinarian, but Semyon and Max were different. As she observed them, Semyon slowly raised his head and looked directly into Emilia's eyes. In that brief glance, she could see a spark of life, a sign that completely disoriented her. Max, sensing his companion's movement, also came to life, moving even closer to him, as if afraid they would take him away. Emilia's heart fluttered at the sight of this so moving scene, and then something unexpected happened. She noticed that Max's breathing, which until then had been weak and shallow, one of the main symptoms of his illness, began to stabilize when he was huddled next to Semyon. This couldn't be a coincidence. Driven by curiosity, Emilia carefully separated the puppies to observe their reaction. Just a few moments later, Max began to whimper, and his breathing became restless again, but when she placed him back next to Semyon, his breathing immediately calmed. Emilia, amazed, said it out loud. Something was happening between them, something stronger than any diagnosis or prognosis. Intrigued, she decided to conduct more tests. She began scrupulously recording both their vital signs, making detailed notes about their breathing, behavior, and any physical changes. It wasn't long before she began to wonder if Semyon's presence could have a therapeutic effect on Max. Could this emotional bond be the key? The shelter's strict rules dictated that animals without hope of recovery had to be put to sleep, but this discovery opened a small crack of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was an alternative. Emilia studied all possible options and came to an amazing conclusion. The connection between Semyon and Max was not only real, but could be the basis for a completely new approach to treating seriously ill animals. Their bond not only emotionally supported Max, but had a tangible impact on his health. In the following days, Emilia and the rest of the shelter team carefully observed the two puppies. Day by day, it became increasingly clear that Semyon had a positive influence on Max. His closeness acted like a kind of emotional medicine. The more time they spent together, the more obvious it became that their connection was unique, powerful, and inspiring. Emilia then immersed herself in scientific literature and discovered research that confirmed what she was witnessing. Emotional bonds can have significant effects on physical health in both humans and animals. Armed with this new knowledge, she remembered other cases of animals that, after being separated from their loved ones, slowly faded away, even with proper medical care. Convinced that she was dealing with something extraordinary, Emilia proposed to the shelter administration a conventional plan not only for Semyon and Max, but as a model for the future. Her idea was to keep the puppies together and provide them with treatment that would address both their physical and emotional needs. Thus was born a new stage in the shelter, an approach that challenged traditional logic, but placed at the center the value of feeling, connection, and hope. Max's treatment was not limited exclusively to medications or medical interventions. Emilia understood that healing a living being requires more than a prescription. Therefore, she tried to create a comfortable, warm, and safe environment for the puppies, ensuring they remained together at all times. Their closeness not only gave them comfort, but seemed to have a direct impact on their well-being. Initially, the members of the shelter's management showed skepticism. They did not look favorably on the idea of changing protocols because of a simple emotional bond between two puppies. However, their skepticism turned to amazement when they witnessed Max's obvious progress. The puppy that seemed to have no hope began showing surprising signs of improvement, thanks to his connection with Semyon. Faced with this evidence, they agreed to support the new method with hope that it would work. And it worked. With the passing weeks, Max's health improved significantly. He moved again with energy, ate with appetite, and his eyes sparkled again. Semyon, for his part, seemed revitalized, playing joyfully with his friend in a daily dance of trust and affection. It was obvious to everyone that their interaction had become the main factor in their recovery. Moved by what they were achieving, Emilia decided to share their story on the shelter's social media. What began as a post celebrating a small miracle quickly transformed into a wave of attention. Photos and videos of Semyon and Max traveled around the world, touching hearts and generating thousands of comments from people moved by their story of friendship and resilience. Emilia felt deeply grateful. Seeing how two puppies on the brink of death not only survived, but inspired others, filled her with pride. She knew their example could motivate many people not to give up in the face of animal suffering and to offer them a second chance. Now that their health was almost completely restored, Emilia dreamed only of a happy future for them. She most wanted them to find a home where they could live together for the rest of their lives. Separating them would be cruelty. Over time, interested adopters appeared, but they all wanted to take only one. Emilia refused without hesitation. She knew that sudden separation could cause them deep psychological trauma, leading to a new emotional breakdown from which they might not recover. Fortunately, Semyon and Max's story became so popular on social media that Emilia began receiving messages from people interested in adopting both of them. She was convinced that somewhere in the world there was someone ready to open their home and heart to these two. One afternoon, when the puppies were playing joyfully in the shelter's courtyard, something unexpected happened. Emilia, already preparing to end her shift, received a phone call. A local television channel wanted to do a report about Semyon and Max's story. Delighted with the possibility, she immediately agreed. She deeply believed that sharing their story could plant more compassion in the world. No one imagined what repercussions this report would have. The report was broadcast that same week, showing moving images of the puppies and interviews with Emilia, who explained how their bond was crucial in their recovery. "I think they saved each other," she said with a smile, watching Max playing, with a ball and Semyon running after him with enthusiasm. The program was a huge success. The puppies' story deeply moved thousands of people. Within hours of airing, the shelter began receiving calls and messages from around the world. Several people even showed up in person with only one desire: to adopt Semyon and Max together. Emilia, seeing such a generous reaction, felt that all the effort, suffering and hope had been worth it. She had achieved something more than saving two lives. She had planted humanity. However, despite the great impact that Semyon and Max's story had, most people who showed interest lived too far away in different corners of the country and even the world. Nevertheless, the report provoked an overwhelming audience reaction, which led to a significant increase in donations given to the shelter. Thanks to the attention generated by these two puppies' story, many other homeless animals also had a chance to find loving families. The incredible friendship between Semyon and Max created a true miracle, and just when it seemed that the search for a suitable home for both would be prolonged further, something unexpected happened. A few weeks later, a family from the countryside arrived at the shelter. Seeing Emilia, they immediately recognized her from social media posts. They approached her with enthusiasm, sharing that they had seen the television report, and that from that moment they felt a special connection with the puppies. Their children had long dreamed of having dogs, and the story of these two inseparable friends deeply moved them. The shelter staff joyfully welcomed this family and led them directly to the area where the puppies were. Max, now completely healthy and full of energy, greeted them, wagging his tail with enthusiasm. Semyon, as always, remained by his side, demonstrating with every gesture the deep bond that connected them. The tenderness of their connection left no one indifferent. The children were delighted and couldn't stop smiling. The parents, for their part, felt deeply moved by the obvious friendship between the puppies. After spending a long time with them and completing the necessary checks, the family made their decision to adopt both. For Emilia and the shelter team, it was a bitter-sweet moment. They felt great joy seeing that Semyon and Max would have a definitive home, but they also knew they would miss them very much. Seeing them leave surrounded by love was a scene as happy as it was moving. Emilia, seeing their happy faces moving away, felt her heart fill with peace. She knew that now the puppies would have what they so deserved: a home, a family, and the possibility of staying together. Soon after, Emilia learned that Semyon and Max had become true social media stars. Their new owners created a special page for them, which soon gained thousands of followers. Emilia couldn't help but be moved every time she saw a new photo or video. She cried with joy seeing them so happy, playing, walking, or simply resting next to their new human siblings. This story marked a turning point for Emilia. She clearly remembered the day when she saw them for the first time, two sick, weak puppies on the edge of suffering. For a moment, she thought that euthanasia might be the only way to avoid further pain for them. But then she noticed something special, something invisible that connected them, a deep connection, almost magical, that kept them alive for each other. Semyon and Max not only overcame illness, they found new life, a home full of love, and became a symbol of hope. Emilia was happy and proud that she was part of this journey, that she gave them a second chance. For her, these two puppies were not just another case in her experience as a veterinarian. They taught her that compassion and emotional support can be as important as any medicine. This experience was forever engraved in her heart. And do you have any story of your pets that inspired you or restored your faith in miracles? Share your story, we would be delighted to read it. Until next time.